Hey, it's another Thursday night, which means another Mobile Music Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. This week is really, really exciting. Why? Because I've had more technical issues than you can put in a paper sack, or a gunny sack, or a potato sack. So you were probably expecting, as you'd seen all the hype, that Scott Favor was going to be on the show tonight. It will not be Scott Favor. He'll be in a future episode. But I have an even more exciting guest tonight for you. I have a very accomplished and very talented friend of mine who's been a musician for years. He's written songs, he's performed live, and has a great, amazing sense of music, and I'm a big fan of his music. And tonight we're going to talk about dance music, what makes music danceable, and what he really likes to hear when he's at a wedding dance, what he likes to dance to, what he thinks moves people, and that sort of thing. So kind of a little special edition of Mobile Music Thursday. So thanks for tuning in. And Judd, thanks for joining us. Judd August.
Hello, Jason.
Awesome.
So I'm trying to decide whether I should look at you or look at the camera.
Well, actually, I think the way that I have it set up, I think that we are actually looking at each other in the picture box.
That's fancy.
Isn't that great?
Good work.
Thanks.
After all that brought us to this moment, that's excellent.
We've been through, yes, exactly. Cool. So when you're the engineer and the talent all in one. So welcome to Mobile Music Thursday.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, and I'm sure the DJs can't wait to hear what you have to say and your perspective. So as a musician, you know, if you're playing in a band or playing with a band and you want to play something, you're like, let's do something dancey or something people can dance to. What is it that you're going to do? What are you going to do differently? Is it all just about tempo?
Well, tempo to me points at really the percussion. You know, the beats behind it are really what are going to shake and move people. Mm-hmm. And the tempo does need to move faster to get people's bodies moving faster. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways to think about this. That's a big question to tackle there.
It is like, yeah, what makes it danceable? Well, you were talking about earlier, like what you like to dance to, like what really moves you, what really pulls you out to a dance floor if there's a band or a DJ playing.
Yeah. Well, one thing I mentioned was that I can't make myself dance, but I'm really happy to dance to music that compels me. And it seems like there are, I don't know, I was trying to analyze this and figure out, you know, what draws me in, and I was listening to some samples of songs that I definitely like to dance to. Mm-hmm. One was Say Hey by Michael Franti, and the other one was from this band called Ekova, and I was trying to analyze, like, what about the drum beats, or what is it that pulls me in and makes me want to shake and move. And it seems like there's syncopation in the beats and driving rhythms that kind of, or either the beats are already syncopated for me, or mm-hmm. they're created as such that I can syncopate and move my body in a way that fits in with those beats.
Right.
You know, like my body's a big percussion or some sort of rhythmic instrument where I'm just kind of banging it against the earth, you know?
Right, you're like resonating with it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like that resonates with, that's a rhythm that really individually resonates.
It's like I'm jamming with the music, but, you know, trying to move my body sort of in and out of the beats and the times.
Sure. Is there like a beats per minute, or like kind of thinking of doing something for an audience where you wanna resonate, if you will, with the most number of people? And I know, I mean, you know, we rely on, like, okay, we know, you know, Katy Perry, Roar, they like to get out and dance to that, or Dark Horse is her latest, so they'll kind of, that's a slower groove kind of tune, more of a bump and grind kind of funky kind of thing. But is there you know, what would you describe like the beats that is it just faster beats in terms of beats per minute?
Well, I think you're pointing at something that isn't necessarily critical for me, but it seems to be critical for a lot of people, is the familiarity of the song.
Oh yeah, it's big time.
And so business. Like for me, you know, it doesn't have to be, like I said, I can't make myself dance to something that doesn't make me dance. Mm-hmm. And so, and at the same time, I don't have to know the tune to feel like dancing to it.
Sure. And
so I can hear a song for the first time and just start moving to it. It's right. But I don't know anything about beats per minute. You use the term groove, but not necessarily in the way that, or at least not clearly in the way that I think what groove means. You know, when I think of groove, I think of like Latin American music often has this groove, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to explain it in terms of the feel, but their beats are syncopated for sure. They have this offbeat or sort of, I don't know what it is, but it's like when you hear it, your hips just start to kind of shimmy.
Is it like the R&B backbeat? It's hard to go wrong with almost any Motown song.
Yeah.
You throw on the Temptations, or you put on Aretha Franklin, or you put on a little Earth, Wind and Fire, or you put on, or we were talking about James Brown earlier.
Yeah.
How you were at a dance and it was just like everybody was just totally sucked in, and they were playing a lot of rather unfamiliar James Brown tracks.
Yeah, I mean,
They were really working.
Most people know I Feel Good, but that wasn't really one of the songs I was thinking of, but it still has that, I don't know, it's not just a straight driving beat. Mm-hmm. It's kind of somehow broken up between the more accented instruments inside of the beat, and but they're all really strong, and they kind of move you, in the vein of Motown, there's that tambourine that just kind of kicks up the energy. There's something in the beat that drives the energy of the song that you're compelled to move. Mm-hmm. It's like if you have any compunction for dancing, this is going to do it. Shakers and tambourines kind of just make all that go. But there's this, I think about, like, sometimes it's the hi-hat in a song or the hi-hat and snare drum that are just like really pulling you along and make you want to move. Maybe it's kind of more of an old-fashioned twist sort of beat. Mm-hmm. Or it's like this big isolation dance where each appendage on your body is just bouncing,
right,
and doing its own thing. Yeah, I don't know. It is an elusive thing to try to nail down and say, but like to me, the big danceable, sort of the naturally danceable musics that I listen to, I mean, there's plenty in rock and roll. I don't know, Motown, I guess, is a rock and roll sound.
Well, even in rock and roll, though, is where you get, I mean, the real rock and roll comes from that backbeat, which kind of has its rhythms. I mean, it doesn't have its origins in Motown, but
yeah,
it's the kind of the backbeat that gets you going. Isn't that Chuck Berry that says that?
Sure. And it's the beats are really clear, loudly defined, not necessarily, they're loud enough so they really, are obvious, and they give you kind of a map to follow, or something to kind of frame your moves in, but the Latin American, and of course all this kind of stems from, I would say, African influences.
Oh, absolutely.
And African music in general, which I tend to listen to a lot of. If it's anything, it's syncopated. Mm-hmm. The beats behind everything that I listen to are really syncopated, and I was and very much more sophisticated than the beats that we play here in the U.S. Mm-hmm.
The pop hit. In terms of the pop hits that we have.
Sure. They syncopate in ways that it's like, all I can say is, like, I think about this, and I'm trying to relearn rhythm with my body when I'm playing guitar. And one thing I've been doing is, like, okay, here's the beat of the song, and instead of tapping it out with my right hand, which is my dominant, and that's the one that's aware of the beat, right, I try to do it with my left.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really not that easy for me, It really isn't, because of all these years.
For me,
yeah, or I can do it with my left foot, but somehow my right hand, or my left hand, it's not as easy to hold down the beat with that as it is with my right hand.
Like your brain's like, oh, no way, we didn't develop this.
But once I start doing that, or another thing I do is, like, the downbeat of the rhythm of a song on my guitar, I play it on the upstroke instead of the downstroke. And it's changing my playing. But getting into this, I just makes me think of, I got to play with this musician friend of mine. He's from British Cameroon, and I was playing. African beats are usually in 6s rather than 8s or 4s. They usually have some multiple of 3 in them. And I was playing something that sounded remotely African, and then he was playing lead melodies around it. And his syncopations were such that they just, like, made my brain just squirm.
Oh, wow.
And I just looked at him after we were done, and I said, that is so confusing the way you play. And he said, I'm just filling in where you're not playing. It's in
Wow.
my, and I made this visual equivalent of it. It's like he can somehow sense the rhythms of the song in terms of the negative space. You know, like you have negative space in a drawing, the stuff that doesn't have the details, you know, it's like outside the lines.
That's pretty wild.
It's like he can see the rhythms. I didn't verify this with him, but it's like he knows where nothing's going on, and he goes, "Oh, I'll go there and there
I'll
and there."
put something in there,
and then your rhythmic sense kind of.
And then you're like, what are you doing, right?
Yeah. So, but anyway, it was a fascinating experience, though, to even try to conceptualize what he was doing. But at the same time, getting back to what I said about syncopation, I think that's what my body wants to do. Is like, there's this, dun 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 dun. There's this beat going on, and sometimes I'm on that beat, but sometimes I'm on the outside of it as well. So I'm kind of filling in with my body. My body will almost naturally do it, even though my brain resists understanding it.
Right.
It's a hard one to nail down for sure.
If you were going to choose, a playlist, like something, like if you were going to pick like 3 or 4 songs, out of Motown that you think, if you had a group of guests and, say they're over at your house and you want to, that there are people that have tastes in these particular categories and these genres. What would you pull out and play for them if you have everything? This kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit, but you have the choice of any of the music in the world, and you're going to do and they're like, hey, do a Motown set. Throw something on from Motown. Like what would you tee up that you think would be really cool coming from your point of view?
Well, I mean, Motown, the classics are like Jackson. The Jackson 5 were always a great one to pull out.
They're like, we talked earlier about ABC, not on the show, but earlier we were talking about the ABC, which has kind of become an oldie staple. One we still play. It's now that it's golden oldies.
But the older ones are what are coming to mind. Of course, Motown, its heyday was 70s and backward. You know? There's this song. I think it's called "Higher and Higher." Your love keeps lifting me. I don't know.
Been covered many times.
And I don't know who wrote that song, but that's like a great Motown tune. I
think the Michael McDonald version gets played like the most when it seems like it's gotten requested the most. Yeah. But he's not. He did a cover of it, or I guess you would call it a cover reinterpretation.
And it seems like tunes with horns in them, like more than one, like there's usually a sax and a trumpet in there at least, tend to be really good dance tunes. I mean, they go together, and horns are always playing the syncopation.
That's one ska. You make me think of ska when you bring up the horns. I mean, ska is like all horns and percussion. I mean, it just really is, and the horns are percussion themselves. Yeah. And I'm thinking like how the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones are huge. You come on and you be in the car and you be like, hey, it's Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. You cannot not move. Yeah. But yet, like I've gotten so few requests for that, and it's one that I've forgotten about, and I need to start asking guys, are you pulling out? Is anybody playing the ska, or was it like we had a moment of ska and then it's gone because it's so danceable? Like every track in the CD, it's like, gotta go to the bathroom, I'm gonna put this on for a half hour. Yeah,
the English beat, that's another good ska sound.
Yes.
Gosh, yeah, and ska to me has that syncopation in it too, or instead of emphasizing the out of 4 beats, emphasizing the 1 and the 3, which is more our idea of it. They always emphasize the 2 and the 4, which to some of you that makes sense. But it's
all of our musicians, our DJs who are musicians,
who are musicians among other things that they do. But there's.
What about rock and roll? Like good old rock and roll, like AC/DC, "You Shook Me Not All Night Long" used to be the closing anthem forever and ever. And
and that's a song that I never felt was danceable.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. I was always kind of, I don't feel that one.
Maybe because it's a hop around sing along song. It's much more of a air guitar.
There's the familiarity of it too, but it's kind of it all seemed like it was more of like a clowning around sort of thing too. But and
the great open, of the guitar, just the one chord that resonates, that like, you know, I love to when I'm gonna play the song. I don't. Sometimes on a lot of songs, I'll skip over anything in the beginning and I'll just get right into the beat or right into the rhythm or get right into the hook of the song. That one I never will do that. I'll always just I'll crank it up so they hear because everybody knows it's that recognition. You know, it's like, oh, it's AC/DC. Here it comes. You know, nobody goes anywhere. They're like, oh, wait for it, and then the drum kicks in.
Yeah,
kind of thing. It's always worked really well. But you know what?
It has an energy building sort of feel to it.
It does. Yeah, it's a pause without a. Should I go get a beer? You know, it's like, hey, I know what's coming.
It's more like a hey everybody, listen up.
Right, exactly. We're about to hop around an air guitar.
It's coming. Get ready.
The "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey has replaced that song as the, I would say, closing anthem. Like it's the most. "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey has become more requested for my brides and grooms to end the dance with. When it used to always, for years, be the AC/DC song.
Yeah. I don't know, I keep coming back to the idea of familiarity. I think a lot of people really require that. You know, even if where familiarity over the beats kind of, you know, familiarity is the trumping sort of.
But it's kind of a mystery because there's such a generational gap there. I mean, that was like a late 80s hit.
Sure, I mean, but.
And then kind of disappeared and then just suddenly resurged in its popularity.
That's because the people who bloomed in the late 80s now have 2020-year-old children.
Oh, it's for the parents.
And so, it's that the parents raise their
growing up.
You know, a lot more kids have musical sort of commonality with their parents now than before, I think.
Do you think so?
Yeah. You know, my buddy out, you know, I was staying out in Oregon with my buddy and like his kid was playing songs that we all liked, you know, even though they weren't necessarily songs that Dad would have chosen.
Right.
But Dad has influenced son on this in this case. So, you know, but his son's much younger. He's only 10. But I think in some cases, and it's because I've asked, but I you know, knowing 20-somethings, they're like, oh yeah, this is my parents' music, but I love it.
Right, that's when they say, I like the oldies. Like, what?
Yeah.
I grew up with this music. This isn't oldies.
Oh, come on. Let's not date ourselves that
Get out of here. Right?
I mean, they're the oldies and they're not, you know, it's like.
Right.
We could all say that rock and roll is like well beyond our own generation as well, you know, because of how far back it spans.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's always new rock. There's always new rock that's coming out and reinventing itself and being influenced. I enjoy hearing a lot of, in the musicians, the new emerging pop stars, if you will. I'm hearing lots and lots of 80s influence in that music. I'm hearing a lot. It's become something else. It's its own thing right now, but I can hear the influences. Yeah. You know, because it's like I remember the 80s tunes, kind of what was going on.
The keyboard.
And that, you know,
the
keyboard,
splashy snare drum or whatever.
The synths, the especially like the Pet Shop Boys sound. If you remember the Pet Shop Boys from the 80s at all, I don't know if you listen to that. They did West End Girls. Okay. They did It's a Sin. They did that, but it was like they were all electronic. Because like in the 80s was like, we have synthesizers, woo! You know, everybody's like going nuts with the synthesizers. Yeah. And so were they. So it's like, so hearing those influences turning up and just how they're putting the sounds together is really fun.
Yeah, it's the inevitability of influences kind of waving into, you know, subsequent generations, I guess, if we want to make that distinction. But I don't know, in my own opinion, right? Where it's all emerging and contrasting and clashing and compatible,
being invented and reinvented again, kind of thing. Especially with music. Sometimes I wonder, with all the music that's actually, consider how many songs are written out there, like how many songs have been written, and that they're maybe similar, but they're not alike. You know, it's like there's only one scale,
or they're structurally identical, but you can't hear it. You have to know the music theory that's going on to know that that's the same, like, chord pattern. Oh, but really? It's just in a different
key or whatever. Yeah, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, like oh boy, there's a local band that has this great, they call it the cover song, and they go through like U2 and Journey and
is this where they're like doing the same three
the
chords?
Cars,
and then they, like,
and they go through, or Jason Mraz, they just like they line them all up,
and sometimes to the C to the F to the C.
Yeah. It's patterns if you know your patterns 1645, 1625, and a lot of those actually are similar to chord patterns from the 1950s. It's in the theoretical sort of point of view.
Right.
It's harder to know that if you don't have that sort of background, but it happens and it goes on and on. It's like these things work.
Exactly.
It's like and the people composing the music aren't necessarily trying for that target. It's just like, this is how this one's coming out, and and I imagine after, I don't know, maybe we'll develop a genetic memory for those. So
we'll have to see.
Kind of like how we all respond to thunder,
exactly.
or how we all feel comforted by rain on a roof, when we're under it instead of outside of it.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's just kind of an automatic shared response.
Yeah. We'll all crave the same kind of music.
Oh no, I hope not.
Well,
I want it to be like, then it's like I like the diversity, I like variety, I like hearing things I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think for that very reason that you just stated, that's why I like world music so much more. And it's like, okay, I really want to hear something different. Well, let's try a different language, and there's a good chance it's going to be a completely different style.
Yeah, there's the Putumayo samplers. I've loved those to get a sample of the rest, a little sampling of the rest of the world. Really, I love the way they've been put together and from different cultures and different places and stuff like that. And I've used it for background music on a couple of occasions. Not many people request the world music sound for their background cocktail.
Yeah.
But a few.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff out there. Like in Spain, there's this band that I got into recently called Ojos de Brujo, which is like, it's like witch's eyes, but brujo is actually a male, so you can say whatever.
Warlock's eyes?
I guess. I don't know. It just doesn't translate well into English.
No.
But anyway.
Do they have like a big horn,
but they're,
red
I mean, just imagine you've got this Spanish, like, somehow it seems like most people are willing to listen to Spanish guitar music, and so that's in there. But then they got this really cool synths, got a little bit of hip hop sort of sensibility to it, and it's very danceable music as well. But there's that's the kind of stuff that I really dig. It's mixing old and new, old sort of classic kind of sounds with new technique, I guess, and they're making the old new, and that's going on all over the world with traditional and modern sounds.
Oh yeah, things coming together, even with this new movement of music in electro swing, which is
perfect example.
The old a lot of the swing music is no longer, it's becoming public domain, and so it's like you can sample it and put it into your compositions. And it's a new thing all over again because it has expired. It's become public domain. And then it's just like, well, swing music is fun. I mean, there's really fun rhythms in there, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do. And then put that in with the technology where you can like loop and drop and layer and do all the stuff that you can do in a session. And it's pretty cool. Like old meets new, and old becomes new again. And it's like really familiar. Like, oh, I know that. But yet it's invented completely, put together completely new. It's really cool. Check out electroswing.com. Jeez, we could like talk all night, I feel like. But time always runs out on Mobile Music Thursday. So, Judd, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights and sharing your talents. And I can't wait to hear you perform again, like maybe right down here in my studio. That'd be awesome. So thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it a ton.
You're welcome. It was fun.
And that wraps up another Mobile Music Thursday. Be sure to check out the other shows that are here on DJNTV. We've got Tuesday nights with Ben Stowe, and then we've got Wednesday nights where it's all about lighting. It's a great lighting show, and I tell you, lighting is like the hot add-on to be able to make a lot more money in the business. The DJ business has taken over decor lighting and doing amazing things. You can learn a lot of great stuff on that. And if you can't get enough of me, well, I'm on with Bill on Monday on the Bill and Jason Show with our little nonsense then. So join us then. Until then, take care. And this is Jason Jones saying so long on Mobile Music Thursday.